The AFC is in limbo right now between the Kansas City Chiefs at 5-5, the Baltimore Ravens at 5-5, and the Buffalo Bills second in their division despite having a solid 7-3 record this year. Currently, the AFC is led by the Denver Broncos and New England Patriots, who are both sitting at 9-2, and then the Indianapolis Colts, who are sitting at 8-2 right behind them. While we all know this conference has been dominated by one specific team over the past few years, it feels like there has been a passing of guard over this 2025 season. And I want to break down in this video here on Blitz Sports Media what's going on in the AFC, what we should expect the rest of the season, and who will come out as the victor and represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. What's going on, everybody? My name is Blitz Link, and we're going to get into this video here breaking down the AFC, what we're looking at and what we're looking for the rest of the season to determine who is going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. Ultimately, the game that was talked about most on this AFC side of things this week was the Denver Broncos versus the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs were returning from their bye. We all know how good Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes have been off the bye in their career. Mahomes is 6-1 off the bye in his career, and Andy Reid had 22 wins to only 4 losses coming into the week off of bye week. In Denver, we all know what the headlines have been coming from them this year. Their offense hasn't scored enough points. Bo Nix is not good enough. They have an elite defense, but it feels like they were fraudulent at an 8-2 record. The Broncos, though, ultimately prevailed despite missing Patrick Surtain, Alex Singleton, and J.K. Dobbins, dismantling the Chiefs and holding them off, forcing the Chiefs to drop 2 straight games, and Denver taking a significant commanding advantage in the AFC West, where the Chiefs look to maintain their 9 straight AFC West titles, but it looks like that's going to be in limbo right now. And the Chiefs currently sit at 9th in the conference standings this season, and there's no guarantee that they make the playoffs this year. So with the AFC, I think there is one key theme that is very prevalent this year, is that every team is flawed. On the NFC side of things, I feel like there's a lot of well-rounded teams that do a ton of stuff very well, and there's less flaws to look at around the league. And I think we know who in the NFC is going to be competing at the top. Compared to the AFC, there is a lot of elite talent on this side of the thing, whether it's the quarterbacks or whether it's the defenses. But each team has different flaws this year that ultimately have prevented them from, I think, a lot of people feeling comfortable about who's going to come out of the AFC. One team that hasn't showed a lot of flaws this year is the New England Patriots. The Patriots have been very good on both sides of the ball. Drake May is playing like an MVP candidate. Mike Vrabel has been very good at reinstilling the Patriot way in New England, as this team is currently sitting at 9-2 and first in their division. And the questions have been around their schedule. They haven't played the toughest schedule, but this was also a 4th place team coming into the year that completely revitalized their roster, spent a ton of money in free agency, drafted a cornerstone left tackle, and their franchise quarterback took a massive step forward this year, and they're playing at an elite level. They might be the most complete team, but they have 0 playoff experience. Do we know if they're going to perform in the biggest stage against the biggest teams? I am not so sure about that, but the Patriots might be the most well-rounded team in the AFC. Meanwhile, you look at the 2 teams that they are competing with at the top, the Indianapolis Colts and the Denver Broncos. The Broncos have questions on their offense. Bo Nix has been incredibly inconsistent this year, despite a very good showing against Kansas City yesterday. This defense has been probably the best defense I've seen since the 2015 Broncos defense. They have the best pass rush in football. When healthy, they have one of the best secondaries in football, and they also are able to stop the run at a high level. There is no good and easy ways to attack this Broncos defense. They are truly elite, and they are dominant at home. They're 6-0 at home this season, and right now it looks like they're going to be hosting a playoff game, which is something that is a nightmare for opposing teams to face that defense on the road. And if Bo Nix plays like he did against the Kansas City Chiefs, the Broncos might be the most well-rounded team, but the inconsistencies on offense make them a little bit scary heading into the postseason. Then the Indianapolis Colts, who have struggled a little bit as of late, haven't produced as much, but currently are 2-2 on the road and 6-0 at home. Similar to the Broncos, they've been dominant at home this year. Daniel Jones has had a resurgent season, struggled with a little bit of turnovers as of late. People are wondering if that regression could be a sign of things to come for this Indianapolis Colts team. While their defense has been solid this year, they've been incredibly inconsistent, but the addition of Sauce Gardner paired with Charvarius Ward in that secondary is very intriguing. I know DeVorest Buckner is hurt right now in that defense, but the Colts ultimately have a very good defense, and let alone edge rusher Latea Latu is an incredibly good player. Jonathan Taylor is an offensive player of the year candidate. The Colts have a ton of talent. Another team that hasn't really had a lot of playoff experience, though, and Daniel Jones, we all know in the biggest moments in the past, he hasn't elevated his play. While the Colts likely look to take the AFC South, they have question marks as well heading into the postseason. You look at the AFC North teams between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. The Steelers, I don't know what to make of them this year. Well, it seems like they are trending towards the Mike Tomlin above 500 mark once again. They beat the Colts. They've beaten the Patriots. Those are two of the top three teams in the AFC, but they've also lost some games they shouldn't have. And this offense is heavily reliant on a lot of yards after catch. Outside of DK Metcalf, they don't have a ton of weapons that impress me, and they will struggle against better teams in bigger situations. This defense has been incredibly inconsistent this year, but the move to Jalen Ramsey at safety has helped this team enough. While the Baltimore Ravens, on the other hand, they've won 4 straight games. We all know how good they've been over the last 5 seasons. Lamar Jackson is one of the best players in the sport, and they are firing on all cylinders after a slow start. This defense has completely changed, and they're one of the better defenses in the NFL over the past 4 weeks. Lamar Jackson's playing at a high level. Derrick Henry's playing at a high level, and they have an easier schedule than a lot of people think to close this season. So Baltimore is ascending in the right direction, and the biggest questions for them is, can they do it in the postseason? Can they finally get over the hump and have a big-time postseason experience for the first time in the Lamar Jackson era? We take a look at Buffalo, who's currently sitting as the number 1 wildcard team. They're a good team, and they have Josh Allen. They've been in the playoffs. They played in these high-leverage situations. They haven't been able to get over the hump with the Chiefs in the postseason, and it's ultimately potentially cost them a Super Bowl, despite having some really talented rosters over the past 5 seasons. While I think this Bills roster might not be as talented as they have been in the past, they have holes specifically in their run defense. They don't have very impressive pass catchers. And when you're able to stop James Cook and force Josh Allen to consistently throw the ball this year, defenses have had success against Buffalo. And there is some real concern with that. If you face a team like Jonathan Taylor and the Colts, are they going to be able to run all over you? Are you going to be able to stop that? There are concerns with that for the Buffalo Bills this postseason, but we all know Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in football and will elevate his play to the situation when it matters most. Then you take a look at 2 teams I think are kind of clumped together, and I think at least one of these 2 teams misses the playoffs this year, between the Los Angeles Chargers and the Jacksonville Jaguars, who currently sit in this playoff picture. The Chargers started off the year incredibly hot, but have been very unfortunate with injuries during this season on both sides of the football. Justin Herbert's now banged up. Amarian Hampton's been out for quite some time. They're missing Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt among that offensive line, and were recently just routed by the Jacksonville Jaguars because their run defense is bottom 5 in DVOA since week 5, and they have struggled. While their pass defense and their pass rush is pretty good, they don't necessarily stop the run very well, and that doesn't play well in the postseason. They are trending in the wrong direction right now. And then Jacksonville, they've struggled as of late. They haven't been that good. 2 of their last 5 games they've won. Trevor Lawrence has been incredibly inconsistent this year. The defense is not very consistent. The one thing they do well is they do stop the run. Josh Hines-Allen is a very good player, but this team is incredibly volatile, and I don't know what I'm going to get for the Jacksonville Jaguars on a weekly basis. There's weeks where I think they could lose to the Titans, and there's weeks where we've seen it. They can compete with some of the best teams in the AFC. I don't know what I'm going to get from the Jaguars, and that makes me feel uneasy about them long term. Like I said, one of these 2 teams will miss the playoffs. And then the final team, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs this year just don't make sense. The talent level of this team is better than the team we've seen over the last 2 seasons. Their wide receivers are healthy. Their offensive line is very improved compared to the last few seasons. Defensively, they have a really good secondary, but the biggest weaknesses for Kansas City this year are the ones that you'd least expect. Patrick Mahomes is not playing at his highest level in quite some time. He's been incredibly inconsistent this year and making uncharacteristic mistakes that have cost this team. And they're currently sitting at 0-5 in one-score games. And those little mistakes in these games have added up for Patrick Mahomes, and they've specifically been in the red zone as of late. Andy Reid, another person that does not deserve to be fired, but definitely deserves criticism for his performances this season. The Chiefs fail to run the football at a consistent rate. They're currently sitting at a 4-to-1 pass to run ratio on average in their losses. Andy Reid needs to find a way to get under center more and run the football. And then you look at defense, right? They can't rush the passer with four. They've allowed 4 conversions of 3rd and 10 or longer this season in a 1-score game, and all 4 of those resulted in losses in the 4th quarter. So their defensive scheme isn't working. Chris Jones even mentioned after the Broncos game, Denver knew the call that they were going with, and they were able to execute based on the look. And then you look at special teams. This team has really struggled this year on special teams as well. The margin of error for the Kansas City Chiefs, they are not coming up in the big moments this year. 0-5 in 1-score games, the penalties, the lack of discipline. You look at the lack of a run game, Patrick Mahomes' inconsistencies. There are little things in Kansas City that have them at this 5-5 record, and their backs are against the wall. I'm not going to say that, but this is a team that could easily run the stretch this year or just continue their mediocre play and find a way to get to 10 wins. Like, Kansas City is too talented to continue to lose some of the games they're losing. And you saw this against the Broncos, that they are just very stubborn headed right now, and they need a reality check in order for them to improve. And the thing with them is you just can't count them out based on their past success. They've been to 7 straight AFC championship games. And while a lot of people are just going to say the Chiefs are missing the playoffs, the Chiefs are washed, we have to see it to believe it. And I know a lot of people are really down on them right now, but the rest of their season schedule is favorable. So towards the end of this video now, it's time to kind of drop my predictions on what's going to happen in this AFC playoff picture and how it's going to play out for the rest of the year. The number 1 seed in the NFL in the AFC, it's going to be the New England Patriots. I have the Patriots sitting at that 1 seed. I think they will wind up getting that, and they will represent the AFC East this year. The 2nd seed, I'm going with the Denver Broncos. I think the Broncos will wind up winning the AFC West. They don't have a super hard schedule. They probably will lose to the Chiefs in Arrowhead on Christmas Day in a short week, but I don't think they will wind up sitting there and dropping enough games to fall down the standings significantly. The Colts I have as the 3 seed, and then at the 4 seed, I have the Baltimore Ravens. Those teams will host in the playoffs and be my first 4 seeds. As far as the 5 seed goes, I have the Buffalo Bills. They're going to have a very good record. They might be a game or 2 back of the New England Patriots. Feels like they have some ground to make up currently in that race, and we'll see what happens to close this year, but they have a much tougher schedule than New England to close it. For the 6th seed, I have the Kansas City Chiefs, and I know everybody's going to be like, they're going to be favored in the rest of their games to close this season, right? There's a good chance that Kansas City makes a few more adjustments and they stop losing these close games. I have Kansas City as my 6th seed heading into the postseason. Then my 7th seed, it gets a little murky. I honestly think I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars as my 7th seed. I think the Chargers are going to be the odd man out in the playoff race. They have an incredibly tough schedule to close the season, and it could be really tough for them to overcome the injuries on their offensive line if Justin Herbert doesn't bounce back. I know he just left the game because it was a blowout, but if he doesn't bounce back well after his injury coming off that game, it could be very bad news for the Los Angeles Chargers. Ultimately, though, guys, I think that's how my AFC is going to shake out. And once it gets to the postseason, genuinely could not tell you how these games are going to play out. It is going to be an absolute chaos show in the AFC to close this year. Drop your comments down below what you think, how the AFC is going to play out. Where am I wrong? Where am I right? If you do enjoy this video, hit that subscribe button for more Blitz Sports Media content, and I'll catch you guys next time.